Okay. Thank you, Mr. McConnell, for taking your time. This is the California Caveman from Ozcat Radio, and I'm sitting here with a very special person from Vallejo. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Well, thank you, Dave. I'm Robert McConnell, and I am now the mayor of Vallejo.
Uh,
I'm happy to have you here today.
hey, I thank you for taking time. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. People of Vallejo want to know about you. They want to hear a couple opinions on things,
Sure.
and again, much appreciated that you take this time. First question. Becoming the Vallejo mayor, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means being in a position where I can actually attempt to influence the city manager, especially, but also the rest of the city council as to ideas I think need to be presented for consideration and change to our city. So it's kind of a pivotal position in that you are the center of the council, but you're only one of the council members. It still takes 4 votes to get anything done. So I hope to bring to the attention of the council and also the city manager things that I hear are of concern to people who live in this city.
It's beautiful, beautiful. And like I like your saying. You said that I'm not a mayor for the people. I'm a mayor that's part of the people.
Well, that's true. I have but one 4-year term, and then I go back to being a regular person just like the rest of us are. So I'm going to try to get done what I can possibly get done in those four years and hope for the best. But I'm going to need support from the city council and the city manager to make that happen. It's not a one-person job.
Oh wow. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. A question. What do you say to the entrepreneurs that want to start a business in Vallejo?
Well, for decades as a lawyer, I've been putting people into businesses and helping them get through that. There's no time like the present. You have to take the plunge because otherwise you'll never do it. Vallejo has a lot of opportunities because we do have a large population basis. We are the 49th largest city in the entire state of California. We have amenities that lots of cities either do not have or we quite honestly give their eye teeth to have. There are tremendous potentials here, but you have to have the vision to see which of your offerings will be successful. That's like any entrepreneur. But sometimes you never know until you take the challenge. There are lots of opportunities to help you along that way. There's certainly the Chambers of Commerce's. There is the Solana Community College Business Center, and there are online classes. There are people who work in the industry already. So you have to do a lot of networking, but you got to bounce your idea off others to see how it's going to be received. But who knows? You may be the next Bill Gates.
Right on, right on. Now, sideshows. We have sideshows here in Vallejo. Do you support a legal sideshow track?
Well, I would if we had a location for one that met all the needs with respect to environmental, sound control, crowd control. We've been looking throughout the entirety of the city and even the region. So far, we haven't really been able to find one. Sideshows, as you know, are not properly sanctioned under the law, nor should they be the way they're conducted today. But we have to deal with them. They're here. It's part of the cards we're dealt with. So we will continue to try to prevent them, avoid them, put them out of business as they come into town. We will do the best we possibly can, but we need the support of our surrounding communities for that to happen. And of course, our surrounding communities also need our support, so it works both ways. But if we could find a proper location, then it's an idea that certainly we should at least consider because then it would be in a controlled environment, a controlled situation. But if the people who are really interested in doing this, other than just to be a nuisance, want to make that happen, then they have to do a little prospecting on their own. It's like starting your own business. You never know when you'll start the next Inferion Sportsway or bring in your own racetrack. If you can make it happen, maybe there's a business opportunity there for that too.
Oh, well said, sir. So basically, you say that the people that participate in the sideshows, would recommend that they start getting a group together, funding, almost become like a lobbyist group themselves? Would that help out?
Well, in all honesty, they are a special interest group. They have an interest in this type of activity, whether it's proper or not. They still have that interest, and there are some people who actually do enjoy it. For those who have to endure the experience of the sound and the rubber and the inconvenience with traffic and moving how you go about town, it's an extremely extreme imposition, and that's not fair to those people either. So there has to be a balance here. And if you are participating in or wish to perpetrate this type of activity, then let's get serious about it and see if we can find an answer that's going to help everybody rather than just ourselves.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for your take on that. Um, if I may, I'd like to ask you your take and your thoughts on the Willie McCoy case, and if you can maybe, what are the steps if we wanted to petition, or like if people disagree, I'm sure people disagree with the decision. What are the steps they should take?
Well, the Willie McCoy and all police involved shootings is a tremendously complex issue. There is no one single issue. And of course, it's already taken place. Unfortunately, there is now a person who's dead. And the city of Vallejo, of course, needs to deal with the aftermath in terms of civil considerations. There was a recent decision made by a special prosecutor appointed by the county district attorney's office to investigate the matter. That matter occurred in 2000, the year 2020, which was before the law changed and the use of force law that we have now in 2021 came into effect. So there was a different analysis, but it was still a criminal legal conclusion. And that investigator opined, rightfully or wrongfully, that the actions of the officers were justifiable. He didn't say that they were right or wrong, he said they were justifiable. What that means is, under the way the law is written, it was not a violation of that law. Now, if you don't like the way a law applies to you, then you need to change it. That's what legislatures are for. And of course, the families involved with other people who have lost their lives have actually gone to Sacramento, and they did get that law changed as of January 1st of 2021. Since that date, we've had a substantially notable fall off on the use of officer-involved shootings. Of course, that's also being driven home by the chief of police and our city manager and our deputy chiefs that are trying to make this difference. But in time, things do change, but only if you seek that change and speak with the legislators who have control over that. The city's still going to have to deal with the fallout of that, and we are trying to change the entire culture of the department, not just how they do some of their business, but the entire way of thinking and responding to problems. That's going to meet with some resistance on the part of entrenched labor. It's going to meet with some resistance by some people who think that it's a right or wrong approach, and if it's the law, it's the law. But reality is we do need to change, and we will change. We have to change.
That's beautiful. Good, good. Another question. I appreciate, again, you're a busy man and taking time. This is something dear to my heart because right now the electricity is out at our house because of PG&E. How does a city go about getting their own utilities? What is that called?
A municipal utility district. I lived in Sacramento when I was going to law school, and they have their own municipal utility district. They have for years and years and years. The reality of the situation is that if we wanted to form a municipal utility district, like Sacramento did, we would have to buy all of those assets and distribution rights, power poles, lines, everything else that goes into a utility district from Pacific Gas and Electric Company. It would require approval of the state acting through the Public Utilities Commission, who sets the rates. But given our extreme financial limitations and the overwhelming need in so many other areas, it's probably not going to happen right away. Today, of course, they have outages due to high winds in the north counties, and PG&E doesn't wish to be sued, so they redirect energy. They make it go to places where it's not so windy, or they reduce the load on their lines just so they don't have that exposure. But that's a financial decision on their part. And certainly nothing the city of Vallejo has any control over. The Public Utilities Commission, which basically meets in San Francisco and Sacramento, does have authority over that. So if you have some concerns with that, you got to talk with the PUC people. That's why they have commissioners.
All right. Miss T from having tea. What the hell is your show called?
Tea time.
Tea time with Miss T. This is gonna be. This is a side. I didn't practice this one, but I think you'll be able to answer pretty easy. Stimulus is running out, Mr. McConnell. So many families in Vallejo. What did you answer?
So many families are suffering right now, and the stimulus is running out. And historically, Vallejo has had a hard time maintaining a lot of sources of employment. So a lot of people have to go out of town to be employed. What do you see for the future for employment
Mhm.
in Vallejo? What would you like to see, and what would you like to do to create more employment in town?
There are a number of possibilities on the small business. We need to work with our small business partners and also the people who want to open small businesses so they don't have a roadblock hassle with the city of Vallejo and its planning department and its building department. We need to be able to make the path to opening a business faster and easier for them to navigate. Today I met with the head of Southern Land Company who is developing Mare Island. And of course, they're planning to bring in more businesses that will service some of the needs of their customers and also their residents on Mare Island, both in retail and restaurant development. So they're quite concerned about that as well. They're master developers, they have a lot of experience in this area. And working with them to achieve that jointly desired goal will be something that the entire council and the city manager and the city manager staff need to work on. But also there is the Community College Economic Development Division up in Fairfield that teaches people how to be a business people. Um, I'm an attorney. I have people come to me to create their businesses in terms of should it be a corporation or a partnership or a limited partnership or a sole proprietorship. Figure out how to do tax returns, whether they're quarterly or annually, how to get a business license, all the red tape that you have to navigate to become a business owner and operator. But there are people out there who can help you do this. If you have an idea, that idea will help you rise to the top, but you've got to get in the water and make it happen. The city is attempting to grow jobs as best as we can during this pandemic, and we have actually increased substantially the number of jobs on Mare Island and indeed throughout the city. But it is a small person who is really suffering, like small law firms, small restaurants, people who are independent contractors. And until this pandemic is beaten, that probably isn't going to ease too terribly much. That's why it's so terribly important to practice safe distancing, washing your hands, wearing the masks in social environments, getting that shot when it comes out. Because once the pandemic starts to ease, then I think you'll see economic development take off substantially again. And of course, we do have a new administration in Washington, D.C. that has announced economic enhancements legislation, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot of incentives for that to happen there as well. So stay tuned. I think the best is yet to come.
What's that? What's your what?
Another concern is a lot of families are facing evictions due to the pandemic.
Mhm.
And what would you like to see in the future for these families? And in any, is there any initiatives that you're thinking of that will help enhance programs to help families stay in their homes?
Well, the Biden administration has announced a stimulus bill that will include renter relief. The last one that was done was of great assistance, but of course, people who are distressed in their jobs because of the pandemic also are supposed to be cooperating in the process. They're supposed to submit written information to their landlord about how this pandemic is impacting them. Many of them need to go down and actually apply for those benefits, but several people have done that, but some have not. And some, of course, have taken advantage of the situation as well. So I think the incentive offered at the national level will help renters stay in their homes at least through September 30th of 2021. The other concern, of course, is for small landlords. And I mean, by small, I mean they have, maybe 10 units or less. And they're the ones who, if they have a tenant who's not paying their rent, have to deal with the banks and the foreclosures, because you can wind up having your apartment house or home foreclosed upon, even if you're a tenant there. And if that happens, then of course the lenders will be merciless in throwing you out. They won't care. So there needs to be some relief for landlords in that federal legislation as well, possibly in the form of a tax credit, where if they don't take the monies from the tenants or the tenants don't pay them and they don't get reimbursement through that stimulus program, then the landlords can take a credit on their taxes, or either this year or carrying forward. As my tax professor in law school once said, if you want to change the world, you change the tax law. That'll change people's behavior faster than anything else. So we need Washington to step up to the plate and change the tax law to make this kind of a situation more handleable by many people, not just renters.
That's beautiful, wasn't it?
Yes. Very nice.
I got one more question. Do you have anything else? Last question. any concerns that you would like the Vallejo resident to know about? Like one you were talking about that Vallejo's 42 million in the hole with lawsuits right now. Anything and anything other than that, should Vallejo know something that like we gotta keep aware of?
Yeah, there's an important development that's coming rather rapidly, maybe more so than we had originally believed, and that is relating to State Route Highway 37 and all the problems that traffic route brings into play. Because the other day at the Solano Transit Authority, which is predominantly controlled by supervisors and mayors and transit people from anywhere from Cordelia north, seems to be of the belief that when and if the SMART train from Sonoma and Marin County is brought over into Solano County, it should not come into Vallejo. It should instead go along Highway 121 up in Napa County, joining in around Napa Junction, and then going over to Suisun City, next to the county seat, where the train station is located for the Capital Corridor. Well, if that happens, Vallejo will have an economic downward spiral. It will be like the old cities of the 19th century that lost the trail head or the highway bypassed them, or they changed directions of the river. The town dries up. So that is of tremendous importance to people in Vallejo because we are, due to not having a lot of jobs here, basically a commuter town. People have to commute out of this city in order to pay their bills. And if you're commuting into Contra Costa County or down to San Francisco, you're already paying a toll. If you're commuting into Marin and Sonoma County, right now you're not. That's going to change when Highway 37 becomes an elevated toll road over years, or probably even earlier to expand the shoulders. And then you will become almost an island of poverty where your only exit without having to pay a toll will be up 80 towards Fairfield and Suisun, where all the power in this county is located. So while it doesn't seem like an important issue, it actually is for everybody who lives here and who drives on that road, or might have to have somebody come to them on that road. So it's an issue that this city needs to pay particular attention to, because its fate is going to be decided by people who don't necessarily live here, nor have the best interest of the city of Vallejo or its residents, or of those of Benicia for that matter, at heart. So that's a heads up on that one. It's going to impact the interchange between Highway 37 and Mare Island. It's going to impact the interchange between Highway 37 and Fairgrounds Drive, which will impact Discovery Kingdom, one of our major draws in this city. So that's a very important development that the people of Vallejo needs to start being aware of, put on their radar, and start tracking very closely. It's going to be critical, and it might even start happening towards the end of this year or even as early as next year.
Whoa. Do you have any questions on that?
Who would get the proceed from the tolls? It would go back to the state, and Vallejo wouldn't see any of the benefits from that.
The tolls will go to the Bay Area, to Caltrans. And as you know, most of the tolls from the bridges go into mass transit in the form of bus operations or ferry operations, and that's all well and good. It keeps a lot of people off the road. It saves time on your drive. It saves time on wear and tear of your car. But it also means that the local people have very little, if any, voice involved with that. Yes. And Vallejo has 1.5 supervisors who sit on that board. The supervisor from District 1, and of course one from District 2, divides her time between Vallejo and cities to the north of here. We also have the mayor of Benicia, and we have the mayor of Vallejo. But we're still outgunned by the supervisors and the mayors of the northern part of the county. And if push comes to shove, unless the citizens make their desires known to that autonomous board, we're going to get walked right over.
Mm-hmm.
So
scary.
That's wonderful that you are bringing attention to that, because I think as citizens we have to be proactive and look at what bills are being passed, and you bringing that to our attention is really great.
Nobody even told me there was a train coming. That's what I said. No, how many other people out there even knew that?
It's not coming yet. It's only in Sonoma and Marin County. We want to bring it here, which of course is not going to happen overnight or next year or 3 years from now, but it will happen. And it's going to have to go along the Highway 37 corridor, which means if you're going to build an elevated bridge that will let the tidal forces move in and out, that bridge needs to be strong enough to support a smart train. But the smart train will give us access to the Capitol Corridor. It'll give us access to Marin and Sonoma County, where a lot of people in our city do work. And it will also give us access to the BART system, because then you can get down to BART in Richmond that way. So it's really key to the development of Vallejo. And if we don't watch that and fight for it, we're going to pay for it later.
Is that something that you're going to be working on in your 4 years? Is that a big topic?
Actually, I already have. I went to my first Solano Transit Authority meeting last week. And that's when I learned of this development and this plan, and the fact that they weren't going to include having Vallejo in this mix at all. I argued vehemently for continuance and threatened to vote against it if we didn't at least have a spur, which is a separate line down from wherever that junction is down to, say, the Vallejo Ferry Building, which would let people tie into the ferry. And one of the gentlemen who's on the committee said, well, has your city done a feasibility study about whether or not this is even something that would work or the people want it? And to my knowledge, we have not. So we at least were able to get the Solano Transit Authority to agree to a feasibility study to see if this idea of a spur from wherever that railhead is to the north of us down here is something that people would want and be willing to support. If we don't hear from the people, then the presumption will be, well, Vallejo doesn't really care, so they're not going to get anything anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, it's scary.
Wow.
That's good that you're proactive on those issues and that you are taking our best interests as a city and also bringing it to the citizens' attention that this is coming up. And I think this type of communication is crucially needed in this town so that everyone could have a vested interest in the things that are going to impact us.
Yeah, that sounds very important. that like you were saying, we get cut off. We're going to be like a ghost town.
Well, it is, and that's where that old saying comes in: is what you don't know that you don't know. What you don't know will kill you. That's why you can't just vote for somebody in an election. You really need to watch what they're involved with, what their position is, what their thinking is, and find out more than what just the newspaper tells you. So that's why I encourage and believe in citizen involvement at all different levels, whether it's a neighborhood watch group or interfacing with your council member, your board of supervisors members, your state legislators, your U.S. representatives. It's all different levels. We all do different things. But if you don't make your feelings known, then we're left to our own devices and beliefs. And they may or may not be correct.
Well, again, Mr. McConnell, I appreciate. We'll wrap it up on that.
Okay, well, my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you what's going on and what I know, and I'm sure as we move forward, I'll learn and hear new things yet to come.
Yeah. January 30th, you plan to do a little more social media, and you've allowed me to be part of it, and so January 30th, we'll have another message with the mayor, right?
Well, I'll leave the social media to you guys because I have a hard enough time with email.
Well, we appreciate.
But I'm learning.
We appreciate that you're open. You're open to do this. I mean, I know you personally. You're an open book, a very good educator. You teach us a lot, and so, Mr. McConnell, we appreciate it and thank you. And Vallejo, I hope this helps.
Indeed, we need your help, Vallejo.
Stay
tuned, please.
Yep. This is the California Caveman with Ozcat, hanging with Miss T. She's in here too. Both of us, we care.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I think that was good.